Yo, what's going on, yo? I'm JBHOOPS, and today I'm back with the second day of my Summer League Standout series. And let's just get right into it with the first matchup of the day, which was the Raptors versus Sixers. I think Delano Banton was super impressive in this one. He put up 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. He just looked super comfortable out there. He made a lot of great passes. He was getting to the rim easy and also knocked down a pair of threes. I think he'll see a lot more playing time in the upcoming season, but it is Nick Nurse and he loves to run his 7-man rotations, but I hope Banton gets a chance. Another standout in this game was definitely Isaiah Joe. He caught fire in this one. He drained 7 of his 9 threes. He's just way too good for Summer League, and he's a guy I definitely think will get much more playing time next season for the Sixers. Doc Rivers is terrible with young guys, but because they lost Danny Green in a trade and he got injured anyway, they definitely need a shooter out there, and I think Isaiah Joe is the best shooter on their team. The next matchup of the day was the Magic versus the Kings. Paolo Banchero was again super impressive in this one. He put up 23 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, along with 4 steals and 2 blocks on the defensive end. He was really dominant in this one. He also looked like he was 7 foot tall or something. He was just towering over Keegan Murray. But in terms of how he played, he made great passing reads. Defensively, he was really impressive as well. Obviously, he was very sloppy with the ball in his hands, and he did end up with 8 turnovers. But in terms of his skill set, size, and feel for the game, Paolo is just on another level. As for the Kings, I think they had 3 standouts in this one. Keegan Murray was very good again. He put up 20 points and 9 rebounds, shooting 4 of 8 from 3. His shooting so far has looked really good. He's been able to hit some movement threes, and he made some really tough shots in this one, including the game-tying look after coming back from 16 down in the last 3 minutes. Another guy for the Kings who had a super impressive performance was Neemias Queta. He had 23 and 8 rebounds and also hit an insanely clutch 3. He showed his offensive polish, and he also just looks huge out there on the court, and I really think he has the potential to be a very solid backup big in the NBA, especially if the Kings end up moving Richaun Holmes. The final standout for the Kings today was definitely Keon Ellis. He went 5 of 6 from 3 and really made some tough ones too. I also was really impressed with some of the passes he made today, and I think Keon Ellis should get rotational minutes for the Kings this season as an athletic 3-and-D wing off their bench. The next matchup was the Celtics versus the Heat. As for the Celtics, I think JD Davison was pretty solid. He struggled with his scoring, but made some great passes and had 6 assists with just 1 turnover. If he can get that turnover problem under control, he's going to be a pretty good player. And then he was also very impressive defensively and had 2 steals and 3 blocks. As for the Heat, there wasn't really any standouts in my opinion. I would really love to see them use Nikola Jovic more. He was kind of just sitting in the corner. Michael Mulder did have a good game. He dropped 23, but he is 28 years old, so you kind of expect that from him. Now onto another game you'd expect would be a great matchup, which was the Pistons versus the Wizards. Jaden Ivey went crazy to start this game. He dropped 11 points in just 5 minutes before getting injured. I hope his injury isn't too severe, but I don't think we'll see him in Summer League regardless. Jalen Dufault was also great today. He's just too big, too strong, and too athletic for anyone out there. He put up 13 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks. Some of the passes he made, especially down the stretch, were super impressive, and I think he's definitely going to feast as a play finisher with Cade, Ivy, and Killian setting him up. Isaiah Livers continued to do his thing. He dropped 20 and 5 and went 4 of 5 from 3. I think he's too good for Summer League, and he'll definitely be getting a lot of minutes next year for the Pistons. As for the Wizards, Johnny Davis didn't have a great one, but I was quite impressed by Jordan Shaco. He was very impressive, was able to score in a variety of ways. He got to the rim, hit a few floaters, and then also a few threes off movement as well. I also think Jordan Goodwin was very impressive. He made a lot of tough shots, and he ended up with 20 points on 8 of 13 shooting. Another thing I noticed was Isaiah Todd's 3-point shot. To me, it looked great. His mechanics are clean. He knocked down 3 of his 7 attempts. And I think if he can be a consistent 3-point threat, he's definitely going to get a fair amount of minutes next season. Next up, onto probably the most boring matchup of the day, which was the Hawks versus the Jazz. I was excited for AJ Griffin. He didn't end up playing. Sharif Cooper played terrible. He'll look to bounce back. And it was a very low scoring game with very few positives. But I did like what I saw from Bruno Caboclo. He put up 11 and 8, and he looks to really have filled out his frame, and I think he'll definitely be a guy to look out for, getting signed to maybe a 2-way contract as well. Now onto probably the most hyped matchup of the day, which was the Thunder versus the Rockets. Both Chet and Jabari had pretty poor offensive games, but I was really impressed from what they both displayed defensively. Chet had 6 stocks and Jabari had 7. The major standout for the Thunder was again Jalen Williams. He was excellent playing off the ball, made some really nice cuts, and converted on tough finishes around the rim. Defensively, he also did a great job. He locked up Jabari Smith a few times, and his screen navigation was excellent. As for the Rockets, I was impressed by my guy Atari Edwards. I think he was great. Defensively, he's just everywhere. He flies around the court. He crashes the glass on both ends, and then offensively, he had a few nice dunks, hit a 3, and ended up with 14 points and 11 rebounds. The second last matchup of the day was the Clippers versus the Grizzlies. I liked what I saw from Reggie Perry in this one. He was pretty impressive and put up 17 points in just 15 minutes. including hitting a pair of threes. Brandon Boston Jr. was also pretty solid, but I think he's just too good for the competition. And then for the Grizzlies, Kenny Lofton Jr. was very dominant. Similar to Perry, he put up 18 points in 15 minutes, but at this point I kind of expect that from him at this level of competition, and I can't wait to see how he will be used in the NBA and how he will cope defensively. The final game of the day was the Pelicans versus the Blazers. I was really excited to see how Dyson Daniels would do, and he didn't look great to start, but he did end up getting injured early in the game, so I hope he's alright and we'll see more of him. I think Shaedon Sharpe's out for the whole summer league, so that's unfortunate. But in this one, I was super impressed by Trendon Watford. He was really solid, doing a bit of everything on the court. He dropped 17 points, crashed the glass hard, and ended up with 11 rebounds. But what impressed me the most was his ability to set up his teammates. He ended up with 5 assists, and some of the passes were nice. And then Jabari Walker had another impressive game with 12 points and 5 rebounds in 18 minutes. I think defensively he's a very solid player, and I think he could definitely crack that Blazers rotation. That is all I got for this one. I appreciate the support on the day 1 video. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. I think I'm going to do this every day. It's not that hard to do. So subscribe and turn notifications on if you want to stay tuned with it. And that's all I got. JBHOOPS out.